Right now, Aaron Rodgers is in hibernation mode. He's in clown mode. This guy's a clown, with all due respect. Should Mike
Yes.
Tomlin and the Steelers continue to await Aaron Rodgers' decision? And Zay, I would like to start this one off first. Who am I kidding? Okay,
Oh, yes, go
let
ahead.
me get it. I'm too generous. I'm out here passing the mic. All right, listen, I need the mic right now, okay? Because with all due respect, we gotta call it what it is. Mike Tomlin is out here running the Steelers into the ground. Okay, Mike Tomlin is running the Steelers into the ground. All right, he's the one that is wanting to pursue a 41-year-old quarterback who clearly doesn't value this franchise as a legitimate option. Okay, the reason why the Steelers are at the mercy of a washed-up diva, 41 years old, is a trickle-down effect from the decision that Mike Tomlin made last year to bench Justin Fields, and the Steelers were 4-2. Okay, had Tomlin kept Justin Fields in the game as QB1, they would have gotten a large sample size to evaluate Fields as a franchise guy or not. But they didn't value him. The Jets said, thank you very much. And here you go. You can have my leftovers in Aaron Rodgers. What are we doing here? Okay, then Mike Tomlin wants to be gambling man from rambling man, giving a second round pick for that man, DK Metcalf. Okay, not half, but whole. All right, DK Metcalf, not even knowing who's the quarterback going to be, throwing him and Josh Pickens the rock. Okay, playing this. Well, I hope Aaron Rodgers see the value in my organization. Okay, I'm gonna trade for DK Metcalf. Who's throwing him the ball? Okay, and I'm tired of this narrative that Tomlin has been devoted of a franchise quarterback. Pack it up. I'm sick of it. Okay, they had an opportunity to draft Lamar Jackson in 2018. They drafted Terrell Edmonds. They had an opportunity to draft Jalen Hurts in 2020. They chose Chase Claypool. Okay, they had a chance to develop Justin Fields. They chose a washed-up Russell Wilson. Stop. No. Okay, to answer the question, no, they shouldn't. Right? Why would you want to wait and hold up the process waiting on a guy who's playing games right now that clearly doesn't value this team at all? But you know what? That's the position that you put yourself in because of incompetence and not knowing what to do on the offensive side of the ball. Like Najee Harris said, I'm actually going to get that clip and air it on the show later on. Well, later on in this topic. But yeah, the mic is y'all.
I
Go ahead.
think John, you go. Go ahead, John.
All right. So I am in a lot of agreement with what you said, especially because Aaron Rodgers is not the same player anymore. And I feel like if this was a move that was done 10 years ago, we would have tried to be understanding about where Aaron Rodgers is coming from because we would have catered to the type of player that he was. But Aaron Rodgers is broken down. Aaron Rodgers, you saw it last year, even though he was playing better by the end of the season. He is not the same history-making quarterback as far as play is concerned on the field that he was back throughout his career, and with the exception of the back end couple years with the Packers. He's just not the same guy that he used to be, and he does not deserve the time that he's taking from the Steelers. The Steelers need to be able to figure out a situation where they can draft their quarterback of the future and they can win now. They really don't have time to waste. Mike Tomlin is under immense pressure as far as this year is concerned because of the mediocrity that we've been seeing that we're not accustomed to seeing as far as history is concerned from Steelers nation. There's a reason why there have only been about 3 coaches for the Steelers in the past 50, 60 years because all the Steelers do is win. That's what the Steelers are supposed to be about. They're supposed to be about that Steeler curtain. And even though they have a great defense, they haven't been able to do anything on offense to show for it. Ben Roethlisberger stayed a couple years too long. And then we got mediocre to bad quarterback play out of Kenny Pickett, Mitchell Trubisky, Russell Wilson. And while Russell Wilson was good when he first got there, I like that meditation picture, by the way. That's really something. That looks like something you can see on Naked and Afraid. Oh my God. But Yeah, man, we got a lot of mediocre quarterback play. And what about Aaron Rodgers that turns 42 in December is going to change that? I remember me and Leo had a conversation one night about the direction of the Pittsburgh Steelers, and it was a lot of this same stance. Mike Tomlin is running Pittsburgh into the ground, and they're keeping him around because of what he's done in the past. And it's not 1999 anymore, like Leo will tell you. And you know, I really think this is a move that if the Steelers go through with it, could cost Mike Tomlin his job. This could be the straw that broke the camel's back for the Pittsburgh Steelers if they sign Aaron Rodgers. I was thinking about it last night, and this probably won't happen, but there's been a lot of talk about Shedeur Sanders falling in the draft because he has more confidence than half the coaches in an NFL locker room because he knows the game from his dad. If he falls to the Pittsburgh Steelers, my God, they should celebrate in the city. They should party. They should flip cars over like Philly fans do when they win a Super Bowl. Like, that would be such an amazing thing for both Shedeur and the Pittsburgh Steelers if that were to happen. That's headcanon a little bit. And if we want to take this conversation there, we absolutely can. But my point is, this could cost Mike Tomlin his job and be the straw that broke the camel's back.
I think, to answer the question outright, the Steelers, and honestly, they put themselves in a position they have no choice, as Lil stated. They have no choice but to wait for Aaron Rodgers' decision because they let Justin Fields walk. Russell Wilson apparently is gearing up to sign with the Giants. They're letting him walk essentially as well. And then there's no real quarterbacks remaining unless you're planning to rather trade for Kirk Cousins, sign Jameis Winston. I mean, there's not many options out there for you, or trade up in the draft to get one of the top quarterbacks, or take a shot in the dark with Jackson Dart in the draft. But the Steelers put themselves in a bad position, right? And you're waiting for Aaron Rodgers to make his decision on whether he's going to play again or the team he's going to play for, or yada yada yada. It's just a bad move for the Steelers. I understand they needed a quarterback. I don't know if waiting for Rodgers is what they needed essentially. But it's not going to be a worse decision than whatever position quarterback they had. It's just that the waiting game is infuriating because the field is getting better, and you're just waiting essentially to see if this quarterback will come to your team. You add a DK Metcalf, let out the ideology of what quarterback you're bringing to play and throw the ball to DK and George Pickens. So it's going to be interesting what they decide to do. I understand we pin the blame on Mike Tomlin all the time, but this is a GM decision, and we understand he has a call on who to bring in, but this is a GM decision at the end of the day. The head coach is not to blame for a GM's decision to wait for Aaron Rodgers. Because if we're saying that Mike Tomlin is the GM, then I'm just confused on what's going on over there. I understand he has a say, he has a voice, but your GM's supposed to be doing the job. So, and I said this a while ago too. If the GM's not doing their job, and it's all Mike Tomlin, fire the GM and just pay Mike Tomlin the top dollar and let him be head coach and front office. Because it doesn't make sense that this GM is not making the critical decision moves in order to enhance the team, in order to bring in the offense that needs to flourish, because it ain't the defense that's the problem, it's the offense. Offense don't score enough points. So we have to figure out what it is that front office is doing, because Mike Tomlin has only been doing what he's been given. He's damn near the Eric Spoelstra of the damn NFL. He's only given the tools, and he works with it. He gets dealt a bad hand from year to year on offense and somehow gets a winning record. Dealt a bad hand year to year on offense and somehow gets a winning record. So something needs to give in terms of what this front office is doing to enhance his chances. They brought in DK Metcalf. Huge bonus. And now you have to bring in the quarterback. I feel like Justin Fields should have been the starting quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I thought he should have been the starting quarterback all last year. But he's on the Jets now, and I'm happy about that. But Russell Wilson was the next guest. You brought in DK Metcalf. Russell Wilson and DK Metcalf are close as hell. Why is he not your starting quarterback again? What are you telling me? That, he's washed? He's not this or he's not that? You just brought in his receiver he worked with his entire damn career. And then now you're not going to go get him? You're not going to re-sign him? It doesn't make sense what the Steelers are doing on offense. It doesn't make any sense that they allocated so many assets to get DK and then they're gonna let the guy who worked with him, who has a great chemistry and rapport, like we said earlier, continuity. DK Metcalf, Russell Wilson, that's continuity, and you're not gonna bring him in to help your offense flourish. So it just, to me, it just Steelers. I don't know what that front office is doing. It's really, really confusing on their tactics in terms of bringing in the best for the team.
I agree with everything. I agree with everything he said. I apologize, but I agree with everything Zay said except one thing. It is a worse decision because it's Aaron Rodgers. None of these guys throughout their careers have been Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers has a Super Bowl victory. I know some of these other guys do, and Aaron Rodgers has given you historic numbers, and he's made plays that nobody else can make with the exception of Patrick Mahomes throughout his entire career. So it is a little bit of a worse decision because of who it is. I know he's on the twilight years of his career. I know he's on his swan song a little bit if he does go to the Steelers, but at the same time, it is a worse decision because of who it is, even if he's not the same player that he used to be.
I mean, look, the reality of the situation is a lot of people underestimate the impact of an individual player. And this is where I'm opening up Pandora's box here. Okay. They look like they were treated in Pandora. I'm going to open up Pandora's box. Okay. Because you look at Tom Brady when he was on the Patriots, and we had that theory, the Patriots way, that slogan, that motto. But that was Tom Brady. Immediately when he left and he went to Tampa and won a championship, the Patriots went into the abyss. Okay. Look at, for example, in the NBA, look at Jimmy Butler. A lot of people talk about Heat culture. And granted, the Heat is a decorated franchise, it's always been, but he leaves and immediately now they losing. Okay. He was the culture. Big Ben was the culture. And Mike Tomlin inherited Big Ben, who won a championship. And I'm not saying that to disrespect Tomlin's accolades. He's still a good coach, but I think, he's a little bit outdated now. But he inherited a Super Bowl winning quarterback. Your job is easier because he's the leader of the locker room too. Okay. And now that he retired, he can't figure out how to develop a quarterback. He has not developed any quarterback. He never had to until he had to, and he can't do it. So we underestimate that. Yeah, coaching in the NFL matters. We know that. I'll be the first one to tell you that. But sometimes these star players are the ones that carry the franchise. Like, look at the Bengals. We talked about them earlier. We really think that Zach Taylor is that dude. If he were to go to another franchise and lift them up from the ground, could he do it? Probably not. But he got Joe Burrow. Okay? So at the end of the day, I want to play this clip real quickly here, and then we can end here on this topic. I want to play this clip from Najee Harris, who just signed with the Chargers, coming from the Steelers. Let's hear from him.
It was just the time just ran out, because it was just a team where, we lost Ben, we lost a lot of the O-line. We just didn't know anything on offense, really. We didn't have identity. We had a young guy coming out quarterback. I was young, the team was young, and I really didn't have nobody to almost learn from the offensive side. I think the veteran guy on that team was like a 2-3 year vet. And that's really nothing, Like, he's still learning himself. And I'm coming in and, I'm just trying to look for people to pick their brain off of. And it was just defensive guys. So I'll go to the defensive guys to talk to them, but, it wouldn't be too much they could tell me about an offensive thing, So, through my years, I learned a lot that, only I learned firsthand. And I feel like here, we got a lot of veterans that I could learn even more stuff from. And even at the quarterback position and the O-line position, so it was interesting.
So look at my guy Matt on Instagram, Matt from TWS. Kenny, I know you know who that is. So look at my guy Matt, man. Hope you're doing good. Appreciate the good words. That's my guy right there from back in the day. All right. Clearly, to me, when players come out and talk about the franchise like that, talking about how they had to seek reference from the other side of the ball because they had nobody to learn from offensively, no leaders, nothing. The coaching staff, garbage. That's a reflection of Mike Tomlin. He's the one that's running the ship. He's the one that's hiring the coaches. He's the one that's promoting the coaches. He's the one that runs the operation. That's incompetence right there. And nobody's talking about it. All we want to do is talk about a meaningless regular season streak.
Yeah.
Well,
And
again, it goes to show about the offense, because we don't talk about the defense when it comes to Mike Tomlin. The defense has been flourishing for two decades. Nobody ever discusses the defense. We only talk about the offense when it comes to Mike Tomlin, and we can't blame Mike Tomlin for that,
I
because
mean,
Ben
that
Roethlisberger.
defense was garbage the last 5 games of the year last year, respectfully.
All right, let's talk about the last 5 years of the decade. Let's talk about the last decade. Mike Tomlin's defense has been flourishing, and we never give him credit for the defense staying as strong as it's been for the last 25 years. His defenses have been arguably top 10 majority of the years he's been head coach for the last 25 years. Majority. He's a phenomenal coach when it comes to defense. Offense is a different beast, and we all know that. It takes a different regime, the coaching, the QB coach, everything else. And I pin that on the fact that the front office has not been able to do anything when Big Ben left. Once Big Ben left, they have been completely scrambling to bring in quarterbacks, to bring in weapons. They don't know what to do. Even the offensive line quality has been terrible the last decade in turn of Pittsburgh. That's outside of Mike Tomlin. That's outside of X's and O's. These guys have not been drafting and bringing in the right players in order to protect the quarterback, in order to bring in. The one time this year, and I said this before, though, before the season started, this was the one time where the Steelers actually had two competent quarterbacks that should have been starters, right? That could have been starters easily. The first time in a very long time, and now they lost both of them. They squandered both of them somehow because they're not competent enough to keep these guys there. Because, like you said, they're not developing them right. They're not bringing in the right offensive coordinator, not bringing in the right people to develop these guys and get them in the right positions to win. But also, we have to remind ourselves, the playoffs, how many drop passes did we see from Pickens? How many drop passes did we see from Freiermuth and all these other guys? These guys were dropping dimes. And that essentially was the playoff. That's outside of coaching, outside of QB play. That's just them dropping passes in pivotal moments. And it's just like, damn. I understand we blame coaching for the lack of preparation for the players. You don't never blame the players lack of preparation. That's all coaches. We get that. But how many times are we going to sit here and blame Tomlin for things outside of his control because the front office don't bring in the talent in order for him to succeed in his job? He's been playing with bad hands for the last 5-6 seasons. When are we going to give him a good hand? Give him
I mean, when he hires a good coach, when he hires a good offensive coordinator, when he hires, you know what I'm saying? That's the problem. He allowed Brian Flores to walk out of the building and take that Vikings DC role and turn that unit from one of the worst to one of the best. Okay? You have to recognize talent, coaching as well. It's not only about players' talent. It's about coaches that's going to be able to put those players in position. Okay? This guy has hired terrible coordinators offensively. All right? You talk about Matt Canada. All right? Overstayed his due. Get out my house. Okay, get the stepping. Okay, same thing with Arithmetic Smith, Arthur Smith. We saw what he did in the Falcons. Okay, this guy, come on, you mean to tell me you can't modernize? You can't go to the college game and get a coordinator? You can't, get somebody more decorated? You got to get this guy that look like daggone what's that character from Monsters Inc. The guy's ugly as hell, right? Obviously, that don't got nothing to do with coaching, but he can't coach either. Okay, with all due respect. I'm just telling it like it is. This guy's ugly, bro. With all due respect. Okay, that dude look like that character from Monsters Inc. With all due respect. But okay. Anyway, speaking of Inc. Incorporated. All right, let me incorporate myself into this show and talk about the Steelers Incorporated, which is the incorporation of incompetence. I don't know what the hell I just said, but I said it.
That was a lot of big words at once, Leel. But what I'll add to that is, again, the more things change, the more they stay the same. And the problem with the Steelers is they haven't even changed. Nothing's changed. Tomlin has, like you said, let a lot of good coaches walk. And we've seen him be dealt a lot of bad hands by the front office. So if this is the way we're going, if Aaron Rodgers is the direction that y'all want, and nobody should think it's a good idea, Tomlin, the front office, or anybody, just get rid of all of them. Just completely start anew.
What are we waiting for? What are we waiting for? I mean, what are we waiting for?
That's the thing. They've been a middle-of-the-road team for the past 5-6 years, and they've barely managed to avoid a losing season. And like you said, we talk about that, but, if it's coming to that, just overhaul it all together. If he's being dealt bad hands, if we're letting good coaches walk, then none of what we're doing is working, and we need a little bit of an overhaul. in Steelers Nation. And I think the problem has been the ability to change because their environment has led to a lot of winning with the 3 coaches that they've had, but it's not doing that right now. And it hasn't done that for about a decade.
We're going to go and move on to the next topic. That was a good topic right there. Good discussion. But let's move on.